Hello, and welcome back to Legend of the GLORIO Heroes, your premier Legend of the Galactic Heroes recap podcast, where we watch the original OVA and then talk about it. As always, I'm your host, G, and with me, as always, reporting for duty and fit for active service, Iro.
Hi.
Hello, are you ready, inside Iro?
Yeah, I'm all prepared for the FPA's invasion of Empire territory.
Yeah, how are our logistics looking? Are we well supplied? Do we
Uh,
have a concrete plan for this invasion?
I think it'll be fine. I think as we liberate the peoples of the Empire, they'll provide us with all of the things we need because they're so dissatisfied with Imperial rule.
Indeed, this
They'll just
podcast,
be lining up to give us
yeah,
supplies.
yes, this podcast is not fueled by food or oil. It is fueled by rhetoric and a belief in the ability that we are bringing liberty to the world.
One podcast at a time.
Indeed. Well, welcome back, everybody. As it might sound, we have an interesting trio of episodes this week to talk about.
Yeah.
Those being 13, 14, and 15. Iro, do you have the titles of those?
All right, episode 13, When the Rain Comes. Episode 14, Liberation of the Frontier. And episode 15, The Battle of Amlitzer.
Yes. What an interesting trio these are. You know, the first two of these are kind of an interesting prelude that does an effective job of building up to episode 15. And I have a feeling we've got a lot to say about episode 15.
Boy.
So, shall we just roll right into it?
So, episode 13, When the Rain Comes.
Yes.
The invasion has begun.
Indeed. And
Reinhardt's strategy is, while they're coming in big straight line, let's let them overextend and then cut their supply lines. And also cut off all of our citizens from resources.
Yes.
Because the FPA is claiming this war as a war of liberation, and so they're obligated morally to help the citizens who are starving.
Because of my actions.
Well, yes.
Yes, as Iro kind of gets into, Reinhard comes up with a pretty ruthless, if not cunning, plan for the FPA invasion, realizing that because the FPA have the burden of being the liberator, the one with the supposed moral high ground in this war, that means they are also burdened with feeding and supplying all the people that they are quote unquote liberating. And Reinhardt plays on this. So his plan is to basically have all essential military personnel kind of retreat from these frontier planets and take all the food with them, leaving the Imperial citizens to starve. And this first episode kind of goes down to the ground level with that, with
Commodore Ulrich Kessler.
Yes, Kessler is commanded. He is the one who receives the order to carry out this plan, and he definitely has some reservations about it, but you know,
orders are orders.
Orders are indeed orders. And so he visits, I don't remember the planet, but it is a planet owned by Viscount Kleingelt, who is an elderly gentleman taking care of his dead son's wife and child.
The planet itself might be Kleingelt.
Oh, yeah?
It might be.
I would believe it.
It's like land, at least, right?
Yeah, I could definitely believe that. They would name their shit like that. You know, I mean, I can't complain. You know, if there was a planet out there called G, you know, I would own that. But yes, so Kessler lands on the planet, kind of meets with Kleingelt, and is like, I don't really know a better way to put this, but we kind of need all your food.
And we have a deadline.
Yes. We also have a fleet with all its guns aimed directly at your planet, but we would really hate to have to use those.
Don't want to do this the easy way or the hard way.
Yeah, basically, and like you could see Kessler is really trying to be the better man here, but like it's very hard to hold anything resembling a moral high ground when you are essentially saying, "Give us your food or die."
Yep.
But
And complicating things, Kessler's
yeah.
childhood friend is has apparently married into the Kleingelt family
Yes.
and has her son living
And,
at this mansion.
yeah, and it's definitely one of those things that like feels like one of those kind of contrived conveniences because like, oh, you know, you live in the fucking far-flung reaches of space. You just happen to revisit the same planet your childhood sweetheart lived on. But also, I do like to point out that Kessler assigned like multiple parts of his fleets to different planets, and he chose specifically to come to we'll call it Planet Kleingelt. And so,
Yeah.
you know, let's be honest, there was probably a part of him that was kind of thinking that maybe he might run into her.
Yeah,
But
totally.
yeah, and I think more than anything, this episode is kind of an interesting. It's an interesting contrast to like the Benemunde episode prior, in that we get to
This is
see.
like the low-level Empire citizens, right?
Yeah, but not only that, but we also see what the leadership is like, you know, in these kind of more far-flung like areas further away from the capital. You know, the capital itself is kind of this den of decadence and intrigue and, you know, conspiracy. Whereas like Kleingelt, at least based on what they show us, seems to be a largely decent guy for like, again, I think noblesse oblige is bullshit. Like I think that's what the rich and powerful tell themselves they're doing to justify the bullshit they do.
Oh yeah,
But
absolutely.
I think that Kleingelt perhaps it comes closer to living up to the ideals of what that means, like to use your power and status to benefit your people. Like,
He seems mostly concerned with like how are my citizens going to deal with this, rather
yes,
than how am I, as my mansion, going to deal with this.
yeah, like it's very important, I think, in the way it's phrased that that Kleingelt's immediate protests against Kessler's ultimatum is not what about me, you know, am I going to get off world? Like, do you have like room for me and my family? No, his first concern is what about my people? Like, what the fuck do I tell them? Do I just tell them, hey, the Empire is here, load all your food into their trucks, you know?
He does end up saying, "Can you take my daughter and my grandson?"
Yes, of course. And I mean, that's a good thing to do, but I do think that, I mean,
Yeah.
there's honestly not a whole lot to talk about this episode, frankly. Like, at the end of the day, this episode primarily comes down to the conflict between Kleingelt and Kessler and, you know, who will acquiesce first.
Yeah.
And in service of that, I think what this shows more than anything is what are the consequences of these far-reaching decisions that Reinhard makes. You
Mhm.
know, this episode regularly cuts back to Reinhard, you know, standing on the balcony, wistfully staring into the stars, and like
Right.
waxing
That's right.
lyrical about like, oh, like,
I'm sure a
you know,
small unnamed star somewhere is going out, but
yeah,
the other
yeah,
stars will increase their radiance in that place of that star.
and it's like, well, Reinhard, that's a very nice way to put, you know,
Yeah.
your plan to leave millions or billions of people to starve
Yeah,
in your
but to
own
fucking
territory.
justify your actions with this
Yeah,
prose that you came up with.
and that's the thing, right? Like Reinhard can dress this up as poetically as much as he wants, but at the end of the day, he is leaving people to die, essentially, you know?
Yeah.
Like, we don't see people, you know, dying of starvation immediately, but that is the intentional implication of his actions, is that the FPA will either save these people or they will die.
We do get shots of Kirky eyes looking disapprovingly upon Reinhardt every
Yes,
time this
yes.
comes up.
I mean, you know, bless Kirky Eyes, he is truly the heart of the group. You know, he is the angel to the devil, to Oberstein the devil on Reinhardt's shoulders. You know, like Kirky Eyes is the one who's like, you know, starving people is bad. You know, whereas Oberstein is the one who's like, you know,
Scorched Earth tactics are very effective.
yeah, yeah. But yes, basically the episode ends with Kleingelt staying behind, to stand with his people, and Vieira and her son also end up staying behind.
Yep.
Kind of, I guess, solidarity with the people of the planet, basically, and Kessler is kind of just left wondering about, the fate of these people.
Yeah.
Yeah, but
they leave like mere minutes before the Alliance fleet arrives.
Yeah, literally minutes before the FPA arrives. And
arrives with crates of food and liberty and democracy.
Hell yeah. Hell yeah.
I am convinced, actually, Kessler will show up later.
You think so?
Just because he's voiced by Char Aznavour.
Ah, well, that would do it. Very
high-profile voice actor for this seemingly bit role, but also we have like 90 episodes to go.
I mean, yes. I suspect that many characters we've seen up till now will eventually make their return. Mm-hmm. We don't know how long that takes. It could be 20 episodes or 60 episodes, but yes, I think certain characters might be in it for the long haul. I don't know if Kessler is one of them, but, you are correct. A post-Gundam, that guy, that VA, yes, that is a pretty big name to get, and it would be interesting. It would be odd to waste him on a single bit role this early on, but that's just our wild speculation. We don't really know for sure. I mean, we're already making speculation like, well, the guy voiced by Wakamoto's got to be pretty important, right? But we'll see. We will see. Anyways, I think that's episode 13. Iro, do you have any remaining thoughts or?
No, I think it just leads really well into the next episode, actually.
Yeah, and then let's get into it then.
Straight in. Of like cutting from the Alliance, bringing crates of food and freedom and democracy to the immediate consequences of episode 14.
Oh yeah, totally. And
on a different planet, though.
Yes, a different planet, but basically episode 14 kicks off with the narrator saying that the FPA have taken 200 star systems. They're rapidly entering Imperial space, but of course this is Reinhard's plan. So this kind of all has this kind of underlying kind of a feeling of dread to it. But the FPA kind of lands on a planet and says, we promise you freedom and equality, blah blah blah. But then a citizen of the Empire leaves a very good line, a very, I think, important line that will, I think, reverberate throughout Legend of the Galactic Heroes for long to come. And it is some Empire citizen saying, before freedom and equality, could we have bread and meat?
Cuts right to the core there, huh?
It cuts right to it, is that democracy, liberation, freedom. These are admirable concepts, but they are only admirable concepts in a world where the common man's needs are already met. Where the common man, the common man can only vote, can only focus on things like democracy and representation when
they're not focused on surviving.
Yes, is when the state is already stable enough that they can work, they can make a living, they can afford to put food on the table and support their families. And in many ways, the FPA's arrival is kind of a very radical introduction of these concepts to these people. It's almost reflective of kind of the United States during the Cold War, just kind of knocking on the door of third world countries and being like, "Hey, congratulations, you're democracy now.
You're on our right, guys?
Right." And then those countries are like, "Yeah, that's awesome. I love being allies with America. Are you also going to build infrastructure and the support systems to sustain these changes that you have introduced to our society almost completely sight unseen?" And we'll see how the FPA's answer to those questions differ from America's. But
Admiral Hood calls in Ensign Franz Valleymoon and says, "You studied botany, right? You can help these people grow food."
Yes, Franz Valleymoon, who for the first time in the history of fiction introduces shows off the usefulness of a botany degree in the military, and
Yeah.
it is a pretty like weird weird specialization to have when you're a military man, but works out pretty well here for France. He's
Yeah.
setting up irrigation systems, kind of setting up the infrastructure to grow crops for the people of the planet. Things are going well. Things are working out. Like feeding the people now is expensive, but eventually they will be self-sufficient.
We do get a cut back to like Alliance Command where someone's just listing off like how many tons of food
Yes.
and how much machinery and seeds and
Yes. We
etc.
cut back to I was gonna say the things are all looking up until we cut to Kazanu off somewhere else doing the math on the logistics of this operation. The logistics we ignored entirely because we don't need them. Kazanu is like, oh boy, we gotta feed a lot of people, and we don't even have enough food to feed our own people and their people at the same time. And, Kazanu is concerned about these supply lines while Fork continues to be, Commodore Fork or whatever, continues to be a fucking piece of shit.
Fuck Andrew Fork.
Yeah, and,
Hashtag fuck Andrew Fork.
Indeed. And Kazanu drops the great line, Yang, be careful. This war is too stupid to die in. And then we cut to
what has Admiral Lobos decided?
Yes, so Lobos receives this information and basically says, "Well, it's all up to the council to decide." And so we cut to the council talking about, "Hey, this war is fucked. We gotta retreat. Like it is already. We haven't even fought the Empire yet, and it is already apparent how badly this invasion is going to go,
Yeah.
And, of course, our friend Cornelia Windsor pops in saying that, surely, if we just win the war hard enough, the people will embrace us. They will embrace democracy no matter what, even if they're starving, even if they don't have jobs, even if, even if we left no infrastructure or concrete plans on how we plan to, sustain their lives now that they're no longer part of the Empire, none of that matters because we have democracy."
And also, we can't withdraw our troops now because then we'll just look bad for the election. And the whole point of us sending these troops was to look good for the election.
It's almost as if we never should have fought this war in the first place.
Weird how that goes.
But, yeah, and, we do get a bit of Yang, and, this week he's kind of talking about, on the distant level, he's, Yang being Yang, sees the writing on the wall. He's, he drops the line about how this is basically just like Napoleon's disastrous invasion of Russia, just rushing straight in, yes, taking lots and lots of territory, just like Napoleon did during his Russian campaign, like, cutting right into the heart of the Empire, but almost as if that were intentional, almost as if we don't have the manpower and the equipment to sustain a campaign of this scale and size. But, oh well, orders are orders.
Ugh.
And
now they've received orders to, if you don't have enough supplies for yourselves, just, acquire it, procure it on the spot from the captured territory.
Yeah. So Kirkyais gets sent out by Reinhard to destroy the FPA supply lines, which he does because, oops, we didn't defend our supply lines because we're just moving in a thin, straight line. It's almost as if that is an extremely risky and brittle formation to organize your fleet in. But
they say there's something like 36 defense ships for 500 transports.
Yeah, it's almost as if you're a fucking fool, Andrew Fork. But yeah, and Fork is really insidious here because he's just like, oh, just procure the supplies on site. And, some of the FPA guys are like, are you telling us to plunder? And he's like, I didn't say plunder. I said figure it out on your own. And it's so fucking shitty. It's so,
Motherfucker. Yeah.
Like at least like it is a contrast, right? We're going to talk about very cruel, ruthless men. Like Reinhard is cruel and ruthless, but he is doing it fully knowing what he is doing. I still am going to
He's
condemn
not
him for
yeah, but he's not trying to necessarily pretty it up.
right. Well, like Reinhard knows exactly what he's doing. He's leaving people to die in an extremely ruthless strategy that only someone like Reinhard could pull off. And whereas Fork is just like Fork is willing to do as cruel things, but he is unwilling to come to terms with what it truly means. And
Yeah.
if you want a contrast between, two individuals in this story who are, doing some bad things during this war. But yeah, so the FPA start plundering the town.
Yep.
France is unfortunately kind of caught in a real bad spot.
Yep.
Turns out rhetoric is worthless and empty without the material means to support it. Who knew? And fights starts breaking out, and we get the great scene where the farmers, sick and tired of having their food stolen by the FBA, are going to do something about it, and they're going to do it with their laser Remingtons,
torches, pitchforks, and shotguns.
Shotguns that shoot lasers. Yes. So this part is pretty fucking hilarious because, the Empire planets all kind of have that like rustic European look to it. Small,
Right.
farming towns and stuff. So you have these like angry, you have this angry mob with pitchforks and torches and shotguns, but those shotguns still shoot lasers because this is a space opera. So,
Indeed.
anyways, and obviously in the fighting, they accidentally burned the food that they were all fighting over. So good job, everybody. Real bang up work here.
Good job, everyone. Yeah.
And then we finally end this episode.
Moon doesn't have a good time.
No, Valley Moon does not have a great time. Poor France, again. Really caught in a rough spot here, and this episode kind of finally ends with well, real quickly, we cut quickly to Rubinsky on Fazan, and in case you hadn't figured it out already, Fazan is planning to play both sides. Rubinsky gleefully, revels in his plans, to maximize profits. Yes,
financially drain both sides, so that Fazan will have financial dominance.
Yes. And then we finally get a moment we have all been waiting for.
Yes, ever since we saw this in D&T.
So Admiral Bucock, bless this mustache-wearing, hard-ass motherfucker. Admiral Bucock is on the video phone conference, whatever. He's on a Skype call with Andrew Fork, and
well, he's trying to call Admiral Lobos.
Well, yes, he's trying to call Admiral Lobos because the admirals of the FPA have convened, and they have agreed that we need to retreat. We are overextending ourselves, and if the Empire attack us now, while we are low on supplies, morale is low, like, our logistics is completely fucked. If the Empire attacks now, we will be destroyed. And a smart bit of politicking here, because Yang is kind of the one who really formulates this plan, kind of in agreement with some of the other admirals like Yuanhu. Right. But they have Bucock deliver it because they understand that, look, Bucock has kind of a degree of seniority. The point is, he has tenure. He can say certain things. Got more
clout.
Yes, he's got clout. And boy, does he use that clout in this episode when Fork is like, well, you have to talk to me first. All messages to Lobos have to come through me,
I expected you to act with more honor, Admiral Bucock.
Yes. Calling out Bucock, calling him as much of a coward as Yang. He says something like, I expected this from Yang, but not you, Bucock. And Bucock he's fucking had enough of this shit. He is too old. He has seen too many poorly managed FPA campaigns to end up playing ball with another one. And he's just like, Andrew Fork, you fucking sniveling rat-faint coward. You talk a big game, but you have no results. You fucking... Bucock schools on Fork so hard, he goes into a coma.
Fucking... Andrew Fork, the...
So good.
mental child, or whatever.
Yes. I think it was Green Hill? I think it's Green Hill who comes onto the phone next. and he's like, sorry you had to see that. You see, Fork is you know what Fork is? Fork is actually a snowflake. That's what he is.
Oof.
He is the
Yeah.
actual snowflake that certain crowds so love to wrongfully, attribute to some people. He talks a big game. He talks about making the hard decisions that a
If
commander
I
has
was there,
to.
I'd do what needs to be done.
Yeah, but then when push comes to shove, he doesn't have the gumption for it. He doesn't have the guts to do it. Hell, he doesn't even have the spine to take a verbal beating from a man thousands of miles away.
Yeah.
I think it is Greenhill who's like, all right, like Bucock, like let's talk like actual men. And Bucock's like, look, I'm not trying to be an asshole here. I'm just trying to, like, we just want to tactically retreat before Reinhard fucking kills us all. Like, Reinhard is probably literally getting onto his spaceship as we speak. He is likely coming for us as we speak, and if we do not retreat right now, we are going to be completely wiped out. And as we see at this end of the episode, when Reinhard literally starts to send out his fleets, Bucock is entirely correct. But
well, only Admiral Lobos can issue such a command, and he's having a nap.
yeah. Oh wow, taking a fucking nap, and he's not to be disturbed unless you're being actually attacked. And it's the thing of like these single individual decisions are not, or how should I put it? I think a lot of people tend to
You hear that story about like
yeah,
Normandy, right?
yes. You hear the story about how like Norman, during the invasion of Normandy in World War II, Hitler was taking a nap, and none of his generals, disturbed him because they were too afraid, and that's why the Allies were able to win at Normandy. And while there may be a kernel of truth to that story, history is never so clean cut. History is not so easily decided by single events, single decisions. What history often is decided by is a series of decisions made by multiple people at different levels of society. And what those decisions do is they snowball. They snowball into
Yeah.
bigger events, and then
None
those
of
bigger
these-
events have
yeah.
consequences.
None of these like supposedly singular decisions could have even like reached that point without the hundreds of decisions made before that.
Exactly. Yes. We would never have gotten to the point where we're depending on Lobos to wake up from his nap if it hadn't been for the disastrous decisions made during the planning of the campaign. We would have never have gotten here if the council hadn't voted on the war in the first place. We would have never have gotten here if Young hadn't won so hard at Iserlohn. It is a cascading series of events that lead into each other, more so than just single decisions made by individuals. Like those individual actions can matter greatly, but they only get to that point because of other things that happened beforehand. And so it's not necessarily, I think, that, Lobos taking a nap doomed the FPA. It's more a lot of things happened up till now that is going to doom the FPA.
Yep.
And
we get our end credits of episode 14 as the settlement just burns down.
yeah,
Right?
and everybody basically dies. And shit is getting important when the credits is when they're cutting
That's
into
right.
the credits and the footage is still rolling. That's how you know things are getting pretty big and important.
Yeah, and boy
do they.
do they. Episode 15.
Episode 15.
Just gonna get right into that, huh?
Yeah, episode 15. The battle for sorry, what's it called again?
Battle of Amlitzer.
Amlitzer, yes.
Which
And
is
so,
today we are now in like new territory.
Yes.
We're past DNT now.
Oh, totally, yes. With this episode, we finally passed DNT. It's kind of a momentous occasion. Up till now, if you guys have been listening to us, you know that because we watched DNT, the new TV series, we did have some degree of familiarity with the events leading up till now. We didn't know the exact details, we didn't know how it differed from the OVA, but we had a general idea of how things were developing.
Yeah, like halfway through this episode is the cutoff.
Yeah, we are now in entirely new territory, and it's exciting. But let's start from the beginning. So this episode You know it matters. You know this is a big deal when this episode busts out fucking from the new world at the very
Hell
start.
yeah. Classic
Like,
composition.
yep, like, you're breaking out your fucking, public domain classical music. You know shit is getting real.
Japan loves this track.
They do.
It pops
They
up
do.
all over the place.
And we start off, meeting our friend, our man on the ground, our pilot on the ground, Oliver Poplin, in his fucking,
Star Wars New
Star
Hope.
Wars, Rebels ass fucking, Starfighter
orange and white.
uniform. Yes, yeah. I mean, it's a good look, but even better look is, man. I want to bring it up real quick because we never get a ton of we here at Legend of the GLORIO Heroes, we like to talk a lot about the story and the characters because those are kind of the big important moments. But this episode is basically one big space battle, and so we get to kind of talk about some of the more, the fun stuff. And for me, I just want to talk about how much I fucking love the ship designs in Legend of the Galactic Heroes, like especially these space fighters. Both the FBA and the Empire have such fucking good starfighter designs. Like, god damn it, like,
you slap 3 bricks together and 2 of these bricks have boosters in them.
yes, it's so good. It's so like fucking like grossly utilitarian because, like, let's be honest, like in the vacuum of space, aerodynamics doesn't matter. Like, you don't need to actually look like a plane to fight in space. Like, realistically, you and it's especially it's why I love the ships in this this world, this setting, is that both even the Empire and all their like pomp and circumstances still launch what are essentially flying bricks with like half a dozen like boosters attached to them and guns on the front, and it's very good. And you can kind of see also that like this episode is kind of where they were saving their budget for, because man, this episode looks fucking fantastic.
I'm like, after 14 episodes of, even when they were in space, a lot of it was relatively low key. It's like fairly slow type stuff, and suddenly just fighters flying everywhere, lasers everywhere, missiles all over the place.
Real fucking Macross shit,
zooming around. It was absolutely wild.
It's fantastic. And but you know what? Legend of the Galactic Heroes, being what it is, also manages to still make things matter, because we get this cool space dogfight, and then Oliver realizes, hey, my fucking laser guns are like calibrated off, like they're shooting at the wrong angle. And so he flies back and he's like, hey, what the fuck, assholes? Like, these are the kind of decisions that get people killed. We find out that maintenance is getting shoddy because we're undersupplied, we're underfed, like,
so
because
go ahead.
Sorry, go ahead.
I just want to talk about how this scene was just like portrayed differently in D&T.
Oh yeah, sure.
I thought it was interesting, like kind of a difference in writing between the two series is that in this, like, we tell the guns are off, he comes in, he yells at the engineers and etc., and they talk about how everyone's like dying, we're all in a bad situation, and then we get higher up officers on the bridge talking about how we're low on supplies and we're not operating efficiently, and the viewer can kind of put 2 and 2 together that, right, because our supplies are so bad, like the engineers can't calibrate properly, and etc. But D&T kind of says it way more straight out, of having the engineer say, I haven't eaten in like 12 days because rations go to they decided it was more important for the pilots to have eaten.
Yeah, and it's definitely different. It's a difference in writing style for sure, and it definitely speaks to the idea that the original OVA, I don't want to get into this like, oh, to be fair, you need a high IQ to understand Legend of the Galactic Heroes, but I think there's an aspect of Legend of the Galactic Heroes where it's going to make subtext, and it's not going to make that subtext apparent, or more, it has enough faith in you, the viewer, that you will pick up on it, that you don't need it to be spelled out for you.
Yeah.
and I can definitely appreciate that.
Yeah, and D&T's way of doing it, like, also I think it does make it a little more personal with like the engineer, but
It's
it's a
definitely
trade-off. Like,
it's a trade-off for sure, because I mean, yes, the DNT one is a little bit more in your face, it's a little bit more on the nose, but
it's a
also
little
by
more
making it
dramatic.
more,
Like,
yeah, but it also makes it a little bit more personal, which in some ways is not necessarily a bad thing, you know?
mhm.
Like having officers on the bridge just coldly state, "Oh, you know, supply lines are thin. That's why maintenance is getting shoddy." It is it's a different way of delivering the same information. But anyways,
Yeah,
you know, yeah. So the
it's a
battle
lot of space
starts.
battle going on.
Yeah, we see Reinhard sends out his fucking like his fucking like elite admiral squad. You know, his
Yeah,
like fucking, you know, like the guys you would fucking like beat one at a time if this were a video game. You know, like to the point where I cannot even remember all of their names because there are so many of them, and they all have their own fleet. Each one of them has their own custom named capital ship, and
right.
they all have their own fucking specialty. It's
The Black Lancers and the
right, you know,
Admiral
like
Kemp, Admiral Bittenfeld, Admiral Royenthal.
yeah,
We're
like you
just
know,
jumping all over the place. Yeah.
Niedermeyer and the Beowulf, and it's just Wallen and the Salamander. It's just there's so much to keep track of. Like it's and apologies to longtime fans out there. We will eventually get their names right. It's just right now they're busting all these names out there right now. It's hard to keep track, and I do think in general Legend of the Galactic Heroes is pretty good about like yes, it introduces a lot of people, but if those people matter, the show does a pretty good job of reminding you who they are. So
Yeah.
I'm not too worried. But yeah, so we cut to the battle, unsurprisingly, the Empire is fucking housing the shit out of the FPA. It's
Oh
almost
yeah.
like we all saw this coming. And
Young putting up an alright fight.
yes, we cut to the 13th Fleet where Yang, being Yang, putting up a pretty damn good fight against, I think he's up against Wallen
It's a
here.
real good moment where
Or is it? Oh, I can't remember. Oh, well. Anyways, go
so
ahead.
there's a really good moment here where Young gets an opportunity and says, "Let's all retreat. We'll withdraw because there's no way we can beat these guys right now, and but
Yes.
and survive." And we cut to the bridge of the Imperial fleet, and they're like, "Oh, they're withdrawing. Are they actually withdrawing, or maybe is this a trap of some kind to lure us in?" And the admiral says, "We're up against Yang Wenli. It's obviously a trap. Don't chase him."
Yeah, you gotta love Yang's reputation doing his work for him. Like, it is very Romance of the Three Kingdoms of like, no, it's obviously a trick. Like, no, you fool. Like, don't get close to him. Like, Yang always purposely looks vulnerable and then springs a trap on you. I bet he's got like 1,000 more ships hidden behind that moon or something, like, and I just want to bring up real quick is that Yang's fucking attack plan. Like, I love Yang because Yang is a fantastic admiral, but also he's an admiral who does not mind winning in very ungraceful ways. Like, fucking Yang's plan for this battle was basically seesawing between attacking the Empire's like left and right flank repeatedly.
Yeah.
Like, just like this really weird U formation. And like Young doesn't give a shit. He's just there to get results, and that keeps his men alive. Like he doesn't care how goofy his fleet formation looks.
Yeah.
But yeah, and then we cut to Bittenfield and the Black Lancers going up against I believe Admiral Yulanhu, one of the more decent FPA commanders. But
That's right.
unfortunately,
Yeah.
Yulanhu getting beat to shit, and with the situation's looking bad, and Yulanhu kind of pulls off a pretty daring formation here, which
All we can do is break through the center.
and at least save some of our men, yes. And so Yulanhu kind of does and I mean, we'll talk about this next, but I think Yulanhu is the first half of this contrast in basically what do men do in times of how do we put it, of emergency, I suppose,
Crisis.
of crisis, when you are pushed to the brink, when you're pushed to an existential brink, to the brink of this might be it for me. how do different men react? And Yulanhu is one half of this equation. He sees he can't win this fight. He's up against Bittenfield and the Black Lancers, which, again, this guy must be a pretty big deal if not only does he have a custom named unit, but all of his ships are also painted black. So, or he's just really full of himself, as we might find out later in this episode.
Sure.
But Yulanhu basically forms a spindle formation with his most damaged ships on the outside and in the front, and basically pierces through Bittenfield's line, and pays for it with his life.
Dies hearing that he saved 50% of his ships.
And the sad truth is, it's never enough. It's unless it's 100%, it's never enough. But the fact that Yulanhu was willing to, play to the court right up until the last second, playing his very best, shows you that, yes, the FPA is a corrupt and in some ways inherently broken and morally compromised institution, but it is still filled with good people, like all institutions, regardless of how bad they are. There are no good and bad institutions. There are good and bad people. And then to get to the other half of that equation, we cut to Admiral Borodin, who I believe is getting attacked by I forget, was he getting attacked by Mittermeier or Wallen?
I want to say Wallen,
or was it Kirkiais? There's like three.
There's so many.
Like 3 Empire fleets during this scene, and I don't. It's one of those. Anyways, it doesn't really matter. Point is, Borodin is command of another fleet, and when he sees the writings on the wall, he shoots himself, and
it's right there on the bridge.
There on the bridge, he sees the writing on the wall and decides, "All right, I had a good run. I'm done." And I am not one of those people. I am definitely not one of those people that's like, oh, suicide is cowardice. That's the coward's way out. But when you are responsible for the lives of millions, when millions of people look to your leadership,
right,
and to just
it's kind of a dick move.
It's a dick move, totally. And that's an understatement. Understatement of the year. Kind of a dick move to just abandon your post in your most desperate hour. Like, God bless the second in command who, like, just immediately puts on the beret and is like, I'm taking command of this fleet now. I don't know that dude's name, but good on him for, like, being so on the ball, because losing your leader like that has gone very, very badly for some armies in history. So, not that it still doesn't go badly for this fleet, but anyways, Lobos finally wakes up, gets the message that God, what a dickhead this fucking. Anyways, Lobos finally gets the message that, hey, shit's going real bad. We need to retreat to Iserlohn, like now. Like, we need to hold at Iserlohn where we can use it as a stronghold, as an anchor point for our fleets. Because turns out there are no fleets left intact. Literally, Yang's is the only fleet that is, like, even remotely still in fighting condition.
Oh, I see no reason for us to all retreat.
No, we could still win this.
Regroup at Amlitzer.
Yes, so Lobos commands all fleets to gather at Amlitzer instead of retreating to Iserlohn, because Lobos still has it in his head that, like, oh, we're losing because, I don't know, but if I just gather, if, like, a fucking novice RTS player, if I'm losing this fight, instead, if I just gather all of my units and put them in one place, I'll win this fight. Like, that's literally what Lobos is doing. Lobos is that dude who, like, panics and, like, yes, like, control all, like, selects all units and then just sends them into the meat grinder.
All units.
But, and, Yang convenes at Amlitzer with, I think, the 5th and the 8th fleet, because, surprise, that's all they got left. Of the 13 fleets that they started this invasion with, only 3 fleets were in decent enough fighting condition to convene at Amlitzer. Oh boy, where they are getting attacked by multiple fleets. Bittenfield and the Black Lancers, Mittermeier and the Beowulf. Valen and the Salamander. They're all here, and they're all ready to give Yang the beating of his life.
It's pretty decent scenes here where Yang is saying oh man, Lowengrom's got such a talented team compared to me.
I do like that, yes. Yang kind of is like, man, Reinhard has a good bench.
Yeah, and his own men admonish him for complimenting the enemy.
Yes, and then what does Yang just say? He just kind of fucking shrugs.
Sorry, I guess.
Sorry, but it's true. I have nobody on my own side I can depend on. That's the other thing that I think is very interesting about this. Is Yang, there are good men on Yang's side, but there are not necessarily competent men. Yulan Hu seemed like a decent guy. Bucock seems like a good man, but none of them can match Yang's tactical acumen, or even the tactical acumen of Reinhardt's own, chosen admirals. And I think that's interesting. It really makes you want to root for Yang even harder, because he's just one man, and he's got
to deal with all this shit.
It's not just Reinhardt he has to deal with. He has to deal with fucking 12 other top of the line admirals who are all tactical geniuses in their own right. But that's kind of what I love about this, is Yang doesn't go down quietly. Yang knows he might not win this battle. Hell, he might not even survive to see the end of this day, but he is going to go out fucking swinging. And man, does he. In a fantastic callback to the Legend of the Galactic Heroes movie.
Yeah, it's paying back for that one time.
Yeah.
Drop some fusion bombs into the sun. Although, I feel like we haven't seen it, we didn't see it really explode.
Well, I think Yang was maybe using a less destructive, Yang was basically doing the same thing as Reinhardt, where he was using the explosion to as a he was using the backdraft to
boost his ships or whatever.
Give them a huge speed boost more than just necessarily devastate the enemy fleet. But point is, Bittenfield overcommits, tries to tries to go for the glory, and cut the head off of the 13th Fleet right then and there, and that is exactly what allows Yang to just get in there and really fuck up Bittenfield's fleet, to the point where even Mittermeier's oh shit, oh wait, that's Yang, I'm out of here.
It's unavoidable, we must retreat.
Yes. I do like that. Yes, for as up against the wall as Yang is, I am very glad that there's a part of me that's very happy that no Empire Admiral underestimates Yang. It would be so easy to give Yang the easy wins by just having everybody underestimate Yang. Just oh, it's just one man, we could take him. But no,
well,
Reinhardt. Sorry,
Bittenfield does send his Valkyrie squad, or tries to send his Valkyrie squad.
Well, maybe Bittenfield is the one who doesn't get that you don't fuck with a cornered Yang Wenli, because he tries to send out his starfighters to permanently just cap off Yang's fleet, and pays the price dearly. Gets I think Bittenfield is still alive, but his fleet gets gruesomely maimed by Yang's superior tactics here, to the point where he calls
in to Reinhardt and says, "Can I have more ships, please?"
Yes, we finally get to see Reinhardt get a little flustered here, where
finally
they're "Hey, Lord Reinhardt, Bittenfield's asking for more reinforcements because he's getting his ass beat," and Reinhardt is just he just fucking loses it in the best way possible. He's just does Bittenfield think I have a magic jar of fleets? Fucking tells him, cut off Bittenfield. I don't want to take any more calls from him.
No more calls from Bittenfield. I'm tired of hearing this. So good.
We have not seen petty, shitty Reinhardt in a while, so it is just always so funny to see Reinhardt get shook a bit, and it's, yes, alas, we do not get to see any of Reinhardt's magic jar this week, but very good. Just
so it's on episode 105. Is it going to be Reinhardt's losing the battle? he opens.
Reinhardt opens his magic jar.
Yeah, dozen fleets burst forth.
Oh shit! Yeah, but yes, Will, and just Yang is just too precious. He's too good for us. like, yes, he manages to beat back Bittenfield's fleet. He manages to get Mittermeier to retreat, but you can just see how fucking tired he looks. Like
It's a lot going on.
He's fighting his hardest. Like Appleton's 8th fleet gets destroyed in the process of this battle. Like basically what happens is, like, not that Yang does this on purpose, but one of the Empire fleets goes for the jugular of the 8th fleet, and that's what does give Yang the opportunity to strike at their rear.
It's only one fleet.
Yeah, and then the 5th fleet is also getting destroyed in the process, and it's just like, you look at, it's like, from Yang's perspective, man, like, the 13th fleet is just fucking trying to fucking win this fight, but they know they can't. Like, all of Reinhard's generals or admirals are convening on Amlitzer. Like, all of them. Like Yang can beat back 1 or 2 or maybe even 3, but against, like, all 12 of them,
yep,
it truly feels hopeless for him.
And the episode ends with things getting even worse, because Yang was defending his back line with space mines.
Yes. Yang was kind of doing an age-old tactic of, the age-old defensive tactic of backing up your army, against a natural wall, so as only, defend against the opponent from one side. But unfortunately, this is space, and
Kirkeyes' fleet comes in and destroys the space minefield with directed Zephyr particles,
which is
the Kirkeyes special.
Right. Yes, quickly becoming the Kirkeyes special is flooding the area with Zephyr particles, and then just effortlessly removing the obstacles. And yes, so now Kirkeyes is also approaching this battle from Yang's rear, and
we don't know what's gonna happen.
Yeah, the episode literally ends. It ends with Yang cut off and surrounded, and then the narrator saying, "And so the Battle of Amlitzer comes to an end." And it's like, you can't just do that.
Oh man,
you can't. That's an even worse cliffhanger than the DNT cliffhanger
of the battle's about to begin.
Right. Like, so those who didn't watch DNT, basically, DNT ends with the fleets convening at Amlitzer, and the narrator saying, "And so the battle for the fate of the universe is about to begin." But and that's a horrible cliffhanger, because, like, you just have to know what happens, right? But now that we've seen what happens, it still ends on the cliffhanger. Oh man! Like,
next time.
Yeah, next time. And now that we're not watching previews, we don't know what to expect. Like,
man.
Like, you know what I'm gonna make? Like, I'm gonna make the very bold prediction. This is not the episode where Yang bites it, but boy, do they make it feel like it. Like, because, like, I mean, that's what Legend of the Galactic Heroes is so good at, right? Is, like, we've been talking about it, right? We're on episode 15 of 110.
Yeah, and but it feels like it's about
it already feels like the most important thing in the world. And here's the thing, maybe it's not. Like, maybe 60 episodes from now, we're going to look back on the Battle of Amlitzer and be like, oh, that was such a small, trivial thing in the long run. But the way that
makes you feel
Legend of Galactic Heroes is so good. Yes, it makes you feel like this is the most, like, this thing right now is the most important thing in the world.
Yeah.
And that's the thing, we don't know. We don't know what happens. We actually don't know what happens to Yang. We don't know what happens to this battle. Like, even if Yang actually does lose this battle, like, I don't think Yang's going to get captured. I don't think the situation here is Yang surrenders and then, like, spends, like, the next 10 episodes in an Empire prison. Like,
yeah.
Where does this go? Like, how does he escape, right?
I feel like, yeah. At best, he, like, flees to Iserlohn or something.
Yeah.
I don't know.
But even then, what happens then, right? Like, all the other fleets are dead. Like, even if Yang does somehow manage to escape, but still takes, like, grievous casualties in the process, like, he's only one fleet. What is his one fleet, even with Iserlohn and its, fuck huge cannon, gonna do against, Reinhard and his, like, 12 mastermind admirals,
Yeah.
Like, it's just... We all, it's a thing, right? It's like, not just everybody with half a brain on the FPA side knew this was coming, and it still happened anyways. It's that thing of, like, watching a car crash happen in slow motion.
Oh,
like,
yeah.
You can see it coming from a mile away, but because of the institutional, like, restrictions in place, there's nothing you can do to stop it. And it's so frustrating.
Yeah.
Well,
What a
but
good show,
but
though.
what a good, yeah, and what a good episode, right? I
Oh
actually,
yeah.
because we have some extra time, I do want to talk about this with you, Eros. When we first started doing Legend of the GLORIO Heroes,
Hmm.
a lot of people, including us to some extent, made jokes about how, oh, we'll look forward to 110 episodes of recapping about, men standing on ship bridges narrating battles. And
Right.
like, I now have to make it a point of contention where that's like, is that what Legend of the Galactic Heroes is sometimes? Yes, of course. But is that not also still unbelievably compelling?
Right. Absolutely. Like,
Like, this battle, like, as Iro can attest to, we were like on the edge of our seats. We had to remember to breathe at the end of the episode. It was so dramatic. It was so,
enthralling.
yeah,
Yeah, I think even with even though Legend of the Galactic Heroes can be very broad-minded or like potentially dry in action, like the content is extremely compelling. And like, yeah, it's dudes, as you say, it's just guys standing around, but also what they're talking about is something we really care about and want to hear more about.
yeah,
Like
totally.
it's it's like saying a romance movie is just people talking about their feelings or something, right? Like,
Yeah. It's like it's a very reductive way to talk about it.
yeah,
And again, it's like, look, anybody who is I don't think anybody listening to Legend of the GLORIO Heroes episode 5 is somebody who's still on the fence, like, should I watch Legend of the Galactic Heroes or not? But I feel like, and here's the thing, right? Like, I wouldn't even say, oh, if you're new to Legend of the Galactic Heroes, watch 15, because 15 will have no impact without the
without
context,
how 1 to
without the
14.
without the weight. But it is episodes like this that make me push back against this idea that, oh, it's a very dry show. Like, it's not dry at all. Like,
Oh,
there's
I'm
so much
yeah,
emotion, there's so much drama, like this show made me care about, like, completely, like, not inconsequential, but like pretty minor characters like Yulanhu, like, and his sacrifice to save his fleet. Like, there are these, even with the minor characters, even with like Franz and, like, the one planet he's on, trying
yeah,
to do his best for the people, or Kessler, trying to wrangle with the impossible orders he's been given. You still care about them. You still want the best for them, even if they're minor characters, even if some of them will never show up ever again. The show does such a good job of, in the moment, making them seem so important.
that is the thing that Legend of Galactic Heroes really gets. I think is that even with fleets of millions of people and battles across the stars, that it's still these it's still made up of these individual people, and even if this planet is an insignificant one among the sea of stars, like to the people on that planet, that moment means everything.
Yeah,
You know,
it's their lives, and it's a thing that kind of makes me think a lot about history as well, because as somebody who loves studying history, who studied history in college, it's I think history is honestly kind of similar to Legend of the Galactic Heroes, and where it's very easy to characterize it as very dry. Like, oh, what's so special about history? It's all just numbers and dates. It's just, oh, when was this important white dude born and when did he die? It's like, it's very easy to mischaracterize it as that. But history is actually, if you like Legend of the Galactic Heroes, if it is packaged correctly, if it is sold in a compelling manner, can actually be one of the most compelling fields of study out there. History is the story of mankind. It is our chronicle of our achievements, our triumphs, our failures. It's and the thing about history is that it is also the story of us, the people. Of the people. Of
everything
individuals.
you have felt and experienced and dealt with in your life times 6 billion.
Yeah, yeah. And I think that's what Legend of the Galactic Heroes does so well. Like, it is such a deep and compelling setting. or it is such a deep and complex setting, actually, to use a better set of terms. But it anchors it so well with such a compelling cast of characters.
Yeah. Yeah. And we're only 10-12% in.
Oh my god, I can't. We were 15 episodes in, dude. What the? Ugh.
What are we gonna be saying in 30 episodes? I'm
can't
curious.
handle this.
I need to know. Yeah, but next time will be episodes 16, 17, and 18, I guess.
Yes. So next 2 weeks from now, we will be discussing episodes 16 through 18. I don't even know, man. This show is so
I can't even conceive of what's gonna go on.
Like, it's very unique, isn't it? It's because the setting is so complex, it's so deep, it's so, kind of just gargantuan in scale. That's what makes it so uniquely capable of evoking so many of the elements it can that I think 99% of anime just can't do. 99% of stories, period, really, not just anime, but like this is it is the kind of, to compare it to literature, this is the kind of story that can only be told in a 12 novel series or something.
This is why people like Lord of the Rings and stuff, right?
Yeah, totally. Like, it's the kind of storytelling that can only come as a result of a story that is willing to go that deep. But
man.
We were catching our breath after watching episode 15. I feel like we're catching our breath just talking about episode 15. It's so much, but it's also like these are the moments we live for in Legend of the Galactic Heroes.
I feel like I understand now why everyone who's seen Legend of the Galactic Heroes says it's the best sci-fi anime.
I definitely understand it now, and I definitely get why, the moment anybody brings up Legend of the Galactic Heroes, everybody's falling over themselves to talk about it, because it very much is an anime worth talking about, even in 2018.
Yeah.
And I think on that note, we're gonna call this a podcast. So let's take care of some basic housekeeping. You can listen to the podcast and the rest of the GLORIO blog's content on theglorioblog.com. You can follow us on Twitter at the GLORIO blog. You can listen to the podcast on both iTunes and YouTube, at the GLORIO blog. Or, I don't actually know. Okay, look. All right, I'm going to level with you guys, okay? We can't have a unique YouTube URL until we have at least 100 subscribers.
Yeah, so get on that.
So I'm just going to go maximum shill here. Like and subscribe, especially subscribe, so that we can finally get a unique URL instead of a, fucking jargon of letters and numbers. Leave a review, tell your friends, tell your enemies. And I think that'll do it.
Thanks for listening.
Iro, you have any remaining thoughts?
Make sure you can watch Legend of Galactic Heroes on High Dive.
Yes, thank you for reminding me. And I think on that note, we're gonna call that a podcast. So once again,
thanks for listening, everyone.
Yes, thank you all for listening. Thank you, Iro, for continuing to accompany me on this journey.
Thank you.
And we will see you all once again amongst the sea of stars.